Good afternoon. Can you hear me, Carl?
Yeah.
You can. Thank you very much for joining us. How you doing?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Just trying to get used to all this technical stuff. Not really my forte, to be honest with you. So just trying to get things done. But otherwise, okay. We've only been doing this for, well, actually less than a month now. And it seems to be going much better than I thought it'd be. So I think our largest room so far has been about 100 people in all the in all the platforms that we live stream this to. So I guess not too bad. Right, shall we get cracking? Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are. Thank you very much for joining us. This is Startup Talent Q&A. It's our 142nd session. We've been doing these for almost 4 years now, and we've had 270,000 people. So I'm just putting the volume down there. So we've had 270,000 people join us so far, and we're now doing this here on Microsoft Teams. So I guess we need all the help we can get in terms of sharing the news, although we are also live streaming onto LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and also Instagram, if I'm not mistaken. At least I hope so. So for those of you that are tuning in via these other platforms, please be aware that unfortunately we are unable to monitor your questions there. Actually somebody is trying to come in. So we're unable to monitor your questions now. Therefore, you would need to join us live here on Microsoft Teams. On all the places that we are live streaming now, there is a link for you to join us onto our Microsoft Teams. And the way you do that is to click on that link. It's a quick registration, and then you'll be able to come into the session here, live audio on Microsoft Teams. We're obviously here to help founders with whatever questions you may have on your people journey, whether you want to know how and where to find the right people, perhaps how and where to sort of look for certain profiles, or actually just normal stuff, or like interviewing people, or maybe something a bit more abstract, like how to build your company culture and all that jazz. There are no right or wrong questions for that matter, and there's no need to be shy. It's a learning curve for us all. We are going to be here for the next 54 minutes now, so until 1 p.m. UK time, and we'd appreciate it if you do have questions to not leave it for too late. The way we're going to do this, it's a quick introduction from the panel, and then we'll open it for questions from yourselves. But actually, as you're getting ready with your questions, what we'll do is perhaps we'll go to some do's and don'ts when it comes to early stage talent. And if you want to ask questions, please type your question in the chat room. And then once that question is there, I will unmute you and give you the floor. By the way, we also run a few other sessions. So if your questions today are not on talent, please save them for the other rooms we do. So obviously today's talent, but then on Tuesdays, it's product and tech. On Wednesdays, it's growth. On Thursdays, it's fundraising. And then we also run a few other rooms, 2 monthly ones, that is. One on legal Q&A, that is second Friday of each month, and another one on finances, that is the third Friday of each month, and they're all from 12 to 1 p.m. UK time, and you can RSVP to any of them via our site, startup to scaleup.club, or perhaps probably a good thing to do is to join our WhatsApp group that you'll see the icon on our site, and via there you'll get alerts for all future rooms. Now, without further ado, some quick introductions. My name's Anton Call. I'm an Albanian in London, working with startups normally right after they get investment. I embed within their teams and help them hire and keep the right people. I also do some growth advisory work. Lately, I've been helping some angels and family offices with their due diligence and assessment. And we've got Carl on the line, who's also part of the panel today. Carl.
Hi, Anton. Thanks. Nice to meet you all. My name is Carl. My background originally was in finance, but 7 years ago, I moved to a deep tech startup to ScaleUp, and was with them until we sold the business in December. I have a fractional chief people officer practice focused on early stage companies. And I have the last 16 years, I've had an academy to help people who are high performing at work and low performing in taking care of themselves, which was definitely me as well. And that's it.
Well, thank you very much for that, Carl. Now, Carl, what would you say are your biggest do's and don'ts when it comes to early stage startups and their people journey? And by the way, don't worry about feeling like you may be repeating things you said in the past or about timing, because for now it's just you and I on the panel, so we've got all the time we want. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the most dangerous time maybe for companies is just after they've raised finance, because there's this pressure inherent and also sometimes or often from investors to get going, to build out the team, et cetera. And it just doesn't work like that. And the scope, if you try to hire quickly, uh, you're just creating almost almost always you're creating more problems than you're solving with that. So I think there's a thing around hiring um, at pace, but more than just hiring. Sorry, when I think of hiring, I don't think of just full-time employees. I think of contractors, et cetera. And I think there's such a great and important role for contractors early on in companies, um, based on just obviously their flexibility, based on the fact that, as happened to us numerous times, you start working with someone as a contractor, you get greater clarity on what it is you want to do. And it's kind of like for all sides of the equation, it's try before you buy, and then you can bring someone in afterwards. So I think that's a big thing. Hiring fast and hiring employees, in particular, is tricky and something to be very, very careful about.
Thank you very much for that, Carl. And in terms of actually what you see happening this year, since this is our first month of the year, um, what trends do you see happening? Anything bad or good? It would be nice if you've seen any both negative and positive trends in terms of startup hiring or just startup HR in general.
Yeah, well, I think if you think about it as sort of two sides of an equation, one the job market and the other the kind of talent market, um, and then the third would be the capital markets, raising funding, et cetera. Um, certainly seeing funding rounds getting done, good size seed rounds. As usual, the rounds that you see coming out of the U.S. are much larger than you have here in London and on the continent. Um, but deals are getting done. Some really notable closings recently. There's a great one for a great company called Aslam that Notion led recently. It was a 5 million raise for a really cool company. So deals are getting done, which is good. Uh, I think that it's a very complex on the job market and fragmented. I think when roles are coming up, they're being, because of the advances in technology and applications, et cetera, uh, it's kind of like a bad dating situation where easy to apply, easy to be rejected, and there's nothing really meaningful in there. It's, I think, very, very challenging for applicants. Excuse me. I spent a lot of time with fractional executives of different types and shapes and forms, and it's very, very common for people to be exploring and building out fractional practices either as a hedge against not getting full-time roles, or as an intentional strategy, to balance with other contracting and to build a sort of portfolio career, just based on the fact that things are volatile. And I think a major thing kind of on all parts of that is the need just to basically be more dynamic all around, and to have your expectations set accordingly around dynamism. I think you're seeing a lot of roles on the job market being fulfilled by via networks is a big thing. And I mean, again, these are things you can hear about frequently, but just even anecdotally, it is people getting jobs on that. If you sort of imagine concentric rings of friendships or contacts, it's like on ring 2 and 3, things working out. So there's a need for people in the job search to be persistent, to be obviously resilient, and to be pretty relentless in continuing to network, even if, or I would say especially if you find that very difficult to do. So complex on both sides. I suppose the kind of good news in that is it doesn't seem boom or bust. It may not be stable, but it's not boom or bust. Because I think boom or bust is where, as we've seen the last couple of years, to me, that's the toughest situation, toughest to navigate through as a company, toughest to navigate through as an applicant. So, yeah, overall, I think it's off to a pretty good start. As I say, just dynamic and complex on both.
I hear you. I hear you. That's brilliant stuff. Thank you very much for that, Carl. I guess a quick reset of the conversation. I've put a question that was sent in to us. It's live. Sorry, it's in the chat. If you want to read it, and then I'll read it out loud for the people that are tuning in via other platforms. But for those of you that have just joined us, this is Startup Talent Q&A. It's our 142nd session. We've been doing these for almost 4 years now, and the idea is quite simple. We're here to help founders with whatever questions you may have on your talent journey, whether you've got some challenges or need clarity on, let's say, when and where to find the right people, how to approach them, how to interview them, how to test them, maybe how to convince them to join you. Perhaps you want to know how much to pay them, or maybe you've got questions on your company culture, and maybe you want to know how to actually develop certain people, and all that jazz. Really, there are no wrong or right questions, and there's no need to be shy. It's a learning curve for us all, and we're going to be here for the next 45 minutes taking questions. So please don't be shy. If you've got any, you need to join us live here on Microsoft Teams. It's live audio, and you would need to, once you're here, basically put your question in the chat room, and then I would be giving you the floor and unmuting you. For those of you that are tuning in via LinkedIn or Facebook or YouTube or Instagram, please be aware that unfortunately we're unable to monitor your questions there. So you do need to join us live here on Teams, and you've got a link on all those platforms where you can quickly register and join us. Now, as far as your questions today, by the way, they're on talent, but if you've got any questions on other matters, then you need to join us on the other sessions that we run. On Mondays, obviously, as you can see, it's talent, but then on Tuesdays, we've got a room, or a conversation rather, on product and tech. On Wednesdays, it's growth, and on Thursdays, it's fundraising, and they're all from 12 to 1 p.m. UK time. So what I am going to do now is read that question that was in the room, and then perhaps we can start with Carl's thoughts on this. So Carl, there's a lady, they're a couple, they've got a clean tech startup in Liverpool. And she says, I'm leading a seed stage clean tech startup in Liverpool focused on providing solar panel installation services. As we hire our first full-time project managers and field engineers, what key components should be included in our talent management process to ensure we're developing leadership and technical skills within the team for future growth? That's an interesting one. I guess this is a kind of 2 or 3 part question. Maybe we can start with what they should have and how can they assess these people in the first place, and then perhaps look into the development parts on both fronts, technical and leadership. Take it away, please, Carl.
Sure. It is a great question. Happens to be close to my heart. I used to work in that sector, actually, with solar installs, etc. I think that the challenge for all of us, right, at a seed stage is, fundamentally that we don't know what good looks like, especially if you're creating a new category or something like that. I think the great advantage that you have here is that there are a number of solar panel installation businesses in the world, and I think from that, whether if I don't know the extent of your own experiences, etc., but I would invest heavily, first of all, in mentorship, and bringing people on to like sort of an advisory board that have that experience, because it definitely exists. And I think I think about this from a kind of advisory board standpoint. I think of it as literally installers. It's one thing you can have corporate finance people and that, but like very specifically here, it is a very, very operational business, and knowing what good looks like and what those standards are is a huge thing, and I would make that the overriding priority to bring into the business. And I think that when you have that, it becomes, to Anton's point, easier to hire, and I think easier to also talk about development, at least on the technical skills going to the top. So I think you do have a great opportunity to learn from others on that, in addition to your own skills. And like the overriding kind of idea of that is that if you're making mistakes, which of course we will, we want to make unique mistakes and not mistakes that others have made that we could have learned from. And I think if you take that approach, and again, I would almost put a priority on the sort of advisory input over even other areas of the business, because to me it's that important, and it is a very, very technical business. I think more generally on leadership and growing the team, again, it's you're figuring all this out, right, for yourself as a company when you're starting. And I think as with the research, I think drawing upon effectively the positive examples or the inverse of negative examples that you've seen in terms of leadership experience elsewhere is, again, a very powerful thing. I personally, just myself, I don't really believe in values. I mean, obviously I do believe in values, but I don't believe in like values necessarily as a critical driving thing at the beginning of a business, because ultimately I think you figure out what those are that are authentic to you, and they kind of emerge. But I think at the early stage, at the seed stage that you're like, where you don't have that experience collectively as a company of examples of good leadership, etc. I think drawing upon, again, what you've had elsewhere, and I almost think about it like those vision boards that you cut things off and you put together. Kind of believe in that as an approach, because what your own experience has been, good or bad, on leadership is extremely valuable, and I believe in using that as a proxy. I think lastly, in terms of development, and stuff, I think the big thing is, again, having, I think, kind of clearly defined, as I believe you can, for solar installation, what are the various steps up effectively as an individual contributor. I think starting to recognize and reward those positive things is a really critical element, and I think that's something you can start doing early on in the business. And I think overall, the fact that you're at seed stage and you're really thinking about these things and how they connect together, I think that's a very good sign, basically, a good indicator of thoughtful management, which is what you would always wish for. So those are some thoughts.
Those are some brilliant thoughts. Thank you very much for that. Now, in terms of kind of preparing for that development and that leadership and stuff, based on this question, is there a go-to platform or thing that you normally have, Carl, in terms of who to go to, or maybe how these people can perhaps help themselves with something that is not too difficult to find? Do you have any such stuff that
Sorry,
you tend
define.
to use?
Sorry,
No,
Anton.
I mean it. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I mean is there any stuff they can read on? Is there any tool they can use to do this better?
Well, I mean, yeah, yes, basically. I mean, I think in terms of things that are off the shelf or available, I mean, there's lots and lots and lots of solar companies globally. There's lots that are publicly listed. I know it's part of Tesla now, but there was they had a huge solar install business. So any company, particularly if it's publicly listed and has a solar install element to it, there's reading around it. I mean, the best thing is to try and find a specialist that sort of report progress and stuff. Excuse me. But I think there's quite a bit in the public domain about it. So I mean, that's not always the case, but I think in this case, there is a decent amount that you could have access to in a focused search or a chat GPT, etc.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for that, Carl. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is go through another question. I'll put it in the chat quickly, Carl, for us to read it. But I will read it out loud for those people that are tuning in via LinkedIn or YouTube or Facebook or Instagram. It's quite a long one, so bear with me, but I'm just going to quickly copy and paste it here in the chat. Here we go. All right, so I'll read it out loud, and if you'd like to have a look at it too. So again, this is another clean tech. I'm leading a seed stage clean tech startup in Plymouth, focused on developing low cost water filtration systems for rural communities. We're considering outsourcing certain technical roles to contractors overseas to stay within budget. But I'm concerned about finding the right talent fit. What low cost yet effective talent sourcing strategies could help us identify overseas contractors aligned with our mission? Furthermore, how can we set up a recruitment process that includes cultural fit assessments, ensuring these hires feel connected to our company value? Oh dear. The only thing I gotta say before I pass it on to Carl, well, two things. Number one, this is one of those questions that although it's detailed and very well done on that, but it'd be nice if you were here so that we can ask you some follow-ups to get to the root of it. And two, I'm not sure exactly what technical roles you want to go overseas. Um, so I'm not quite clear whether you want to hire people from overseas and bring them here, or maybe hire them there and give them jobs to do, which I guess, not that I know the industry well, but the only thing I can think of is maybe for them to study certain tests or something, because I don't know, how they're going to conduct their work if they're based overseas. But anyway, um, let's see what Carl's thoughts are on this. Carl, any thoughts on this?
Well, I think in a sense there's some similarities to the previous one, not just because it's clean tech, but just a personal approach. I believe it's a business like that again is technical. Having access to senior practitioners in the space. So again, I don't know if this was like in, well, water filtration, etc. I would find someone. I'm assuming you are in the UK. I'd find someone, although they're not flavor of the day, from Thames Water, etc. I would find someone senior. They will be more expensive, but I think what you would spend on carving out time and space for them to, in a sort of advisory capacity, to define what good looks like very specifically on these things, and to be available to help, excuse me, vet and interview people. I think that would be, to my mind, high priority and a very good use of resources. I think it's one of those things that just has a lot of positive leverage into it. If you've got someone who, again, is able to really be thoughtful and vet around this, they're going to save you a lot of headaches later down the road. They'll also be aware of if there are any relevant, qualifications, etc. And the water business and filtration actually is I believe, a very, very international business. So I think the prospects for being able to find people, again, it's depending on if you're talking about implementation or what, there may be issues that they're in the wrong part of the world. But yeah, I think there is quite a broad geographic pool of people out there. Obviously, offshoring, if it's less expensive, as you're saying, is attractive, but it's only attractive if net it's delivering value. And so I think your concern about it is well placed. I do think that there's a lot of specialist recruitment agencies in the clean tech sector. I get that you won't want to pay full fees on that, but there are quite a lot of job boards and stuff out there. So I think once you have a clear view of what's needed and you have someone to help you vet them, I think you can set up a decent pipeline of candidates coming in. I think you do have to ask yourself the question that, again, although things may be cheaper with someone on the other side of the world, and that seems great, I just would urge you to really think carefully about the total cost of it. So, like, I used to work a lot in Australia. Sounds great, koala bears, whatever, but it was a nightmare in terms of the time difference. If you've got to be with someone at 9 a.m. Sydney time, it's awkward timing. So it's not just the economic cost. To me, it's the excuse me, it's the whole cost. In terms of the second question on values and getting that in, again, just a personal thing. I really believe that, again, like companies' values. Basically, I believe in anthropologists. I think I have it right. I know that's not such a radical opinion, but so I believe in like stories. Like, what are the stories? Don't tell me what the value is. Like, what are the individual stories from the company's existence, or as mentioned earlier, from your own existence, that exemplify the thing that you are talking about? And if you focus on that, I mean, they can always be a bit aspirational, but you want them to be pretty close to how things are. And I think that you can certainly be sharing those, and it's important to share those in the hiring process. I think cultural fit is like the wording. I mean, I know what you mean, but the wording around that is maybe not great. I think you want to talk about someone who's going to be kind of adding to the overall community and company as a better way to sort of frame that. And so I think, I mean, I also just believe in a completely extra or additional stage to the hiring process that really looks at this and looks also very specifically at the extent to which someone is really making, on the candidate and your side, making really clear, thoughtful decisions about joining. It's easy just to accept a job offer and get going, but I think you want to always be trying to reduce your percentage and number of mishires that come either from that because they haven't thought it through, or that have come because something's different about the business or about the role than you did. So I personally believe in another additional session. We used to do it literally for like 4 or 5 hours, where you have a chance to really be transparent, warts and all about there, and you get a chance to really understand the person. And generally, we found out of that, and people that are sort of up for having that kind of an investment, tend to sort of, select themselves in, basically. So those are some thoughts.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much for that, Carl. Really appreciate it. It looks like it's just going to be us two now, because unfortunately Jeff is unable to join. So if it's okay with you, we'll carry on. I'll just do a quick reset of the conversation for those people that are tuning in via, especially for them that are tuning in via other platforms where we're live streaming now. This is Startup Talent Q&A. It's our 142nd session. We've been doing these for, almost 4 years now. And although we've had at least 270,000 people that have tuned in, we've recently changed platforms. So I guess we need all the help we can get in spreading the news. Therefore, please feel free to do so. If you're tuning in via Facebook or YouTube or LinkedIn or even Instagram, and you do want to ask questions, please be aware that unfortunately we're unable to monitor your questions live there. So you would need to join us interactively here via Microsoft Teams. It's a audio only session, and you've got a link to those. Should be a link on all those live streams where you can just click and join us with a quick registration. On the other hand, as the title says, we're here to help founders on their talent journey today. So you could have questions on anything to do with HR, really, whether it's how and where to find the right people, what kind of process you need to put in place, maybe some kind of documentation that you need to make sure you've got, or how you interview and test people, how to build your company culture, how to pay people, and how do you engage them? Do you go for an advisor, an early stage contractor, or perhaps a fractional person, or a full-time employee? And all that jazz. Basically, there are no wrong or right questions for that matter, and there's no need to be shy. We're only going to be here for another 23 minutes, so would appreciate it if you don't leave it for last second with your questions. If you are here on Microsoft Teams and you've got a question, all you need to do is put it in the chat, and then I'll unmute you and give you the floor. Now, if your questions today are not on talent, please save them for the other conversations we host. So we currently do 6 regular sessions, 4 weekly, which is Monday's talent, Tuesday's product and tech, Wednesday's growth, and Thursday's fundraising, and then 2 monthly, which is a legal Q&A on the second Friday of each month, and a finances Q&A on the third Friday of each month, and they're all from 12 to 1 p.m. UK time. And you can RSVP to any of those via our website, StartUp to ScaleUp.club. And when you actually go there, you'll be able to find the session you prefer and RSVP to it via that. But also, you can join our WhatsApp group, and there's a link there with the there's a link there with with a WhatsApp icon. If you join us there, you'll be able to get alerts for all future rooms. And now, if you don't mind, Carl, we've got another question that was sent in. So it looks like we've got a crew of shy people today who are not asking questions now. But nevertheless, it's in the chat if you'd like to have a look, and I'll read it out loud for those that are tuning in by other platforms. This is a seed stage edtech startup in London. And then she goes on to say, where we create interactive language learning tools for schools globally. We've recently hired remote developers and instructional designers from several other countries. With our limited HR infrastructure, what cost-effective practices can we implement to handle varying employment laws and benefits for a dispersed team? Also, how can we foster a unified work culture that embraces this international diversity, ensuring that remote employees feel integrated into our mission of global education? That's quite a question. So I guess it's two main parts, and the second question is a two part as well. But one, what infrastructure and legal process to put in place to handle uh, this dispersed team? And then the second part is foster a unified work culture, um, but also, you know, embrace diversity and integration. I guess for the first one, I don't mind adding something. What I would do is look at some platforms out there. Is it Deal, Cole? And another one, I can't remember.
Yeah,
There's a couple of, yeah,
there's
go on.
there's a lot. Generally they're referred to, among other things, as EORs, employers of record. Um, and there, as you said, there's Deal, there's Remote. There's quite a lot of them out there, and although they can be expensive, they are definitely the easiest way to deal with it. The way it works is they technically become, sorry, your employees become employees of actually the EOR, and then they're sort of contracted to you from there. I think as a general answer to all of this, to both of the questions that are in here, I found that remote, I let me put it differently, people, that is to say, people that work in HR, people ops, or talent, in my experience, tend to be very, very nice and happy to share. Busy like anyone else, but you can reach out to them. And again, I think this is kind of similar to what we were talking about before, that it's kind of a solved problem in a lot of places, like both of these things, hiring efficiently and there. And so I would put a really high premium and effort on learning from other companies. There's like organizations of remote workers. There's a lot out there on it, and a lot to learn from. And that's without any question, in my mind, the best way to do it. For both of these things. On the second of them, excuse me, in terms of feeling integrated, I think you're definitely right to be concerned about that. It can be, depending on your proportion that are, where people are, that can be a big problem. I think that, again, there's simple things which others will tell you as well, of you always have meetings where everyone is on the Zoom, even if you have 5 people in the same room. You never have a single room with 5 people and then other people just individually. That's a very distracting and divisive thing. So everyone's on their own screen. I think you can move around the timing of calls to occasionally to make it easier for people in different zones. I think there's things you can do. Just have a simple channel, sort of acknowledging or recognizing holidays of people in other parts of the world. I think there's a lot that just flows from being concerned about that and just trying to think, well, if I was a remote person, what would make me feel more connected? If you just literally just keep focused on that, you're going to come up with a lot of good ideas. And again, you will get a lot of good input, what's written, or what you'll be able to get from reaching out to people who are, excuse me, all remote. And I said on the first one, there are lots of EORs out there. I think what you want to do as an early stage company is obviously try and figure out where you can get the best deal, depending on who your investors are, who you're using for HRIS, there are discounts and stuff that are out there, and so I just would look for those. And even in addition to those, when you're talking to EORs, because there's some degree of competition, sometimes you can have some luck with negotiating a better pricing for yourselves. So those are some
That's some brilliant addition there. Thank you very much, Carl. The only thing I would like to reiterate and kind of add a little bit is what I've seen work well, and I've done this with a couple of companies. The last one was a US headquartered company where we implemented a kind of buddy system, basically, and pairing people with somebody, despite what jurisdiction they were. But ideally, what we saw that what really helped was a two-tier budding system. One with somebody who was a much sort of old, well, not older, longer sort of standing employee, and one with somebody who was from a sort of similar background, if not country, to the new hires. Another thing that worked well is, despite this sort of dispersing, was to have daily catch-ups for the entire team, even if it was 5 minutes. And last but not least, what really worked was giving each person at least 1 day per month to work on a completely different domain. Let's say the salespeople would, albeit remotely, they would work with the marketing team or the tech team or even HR and so on. And that created quite a decent gel. So personally, I would try and look at these three things because they can be quite useful. Right here, we've only got 14 minutes to go. So for those of you that are tuning in via LinkedIn or YouTube or Facebook or Instagram, please be aware that unfortunately we're unable to monitor your questions live. But if you do have any questions on your talent journey for your startup, then you'll need to join us here live on Microsoft Teams. It's audio only, and you should have a link on all of those platforms where you can click and quickly register to join us here on Microsoft Teams. And we're here to help you with whatever questions you have on talent. Just a reminder, we run 6 regular rooms or conversations. Mondays, obviously, as you can see, it's talent. Tuesdays, product and tech. Wednesdays, growth. And Thursdays, fundraising. And then we run 2 monthly sessions, a legal one on the second Friday of each month, and a financial one on the third Friday of each month. And they're all from 12 to 1 p.m. UK time. And you can join us on any of those and RSVP to them via our website, StartUp.club. And actually, when you get there, you can also join our WhatsApp group. And that's probably the best way to keep up with alerts of future rooms. Now, another question that was sent in to us, Carl, is from somebody in Blackpool. It seems like lately there is quite whether clean tech companies have heard about us more than others lately, or perhaps there's a trend on clean tech. I'm not quite sure. But this is a co-founder of a clean energy startup in Blackpool, and they're going for Series A. They're focused on developing portable wind turbines for remote areas. Then he goes on to say, I'm facing challenges in organizing our roles across R&D, sales, and field operations. With limited funds, how can we structure these diverse roles to prevent miscommunication and overlapping responsibilities? Additionally, what simple tools or templates could help us document each role's scope and create accountability across departments, ensuring alignment with our sustainability goals? Oh, Jesus. Okay. I guess Sorry. Number one is, how to dish out what roles and what tasks. So maybe we should start with that and then take it from there.
Yeah. Well, I think one approach you could take to this is effectively like a narrative approach, where you write out what the customer journey would be, or the process from uh, if you're developing. So I wasn't clear if you're developing wind turbines or you're developing sites with wind turbines, but the, mapping out the journey from like who's found the site, how does it work, what is the
They're developing the actual turbine, so I'm not sure if they're doing the science as well. But it
right.
says we're developing wind turbines.
Right. Well, I think it's the same though, but what I'm saying is I'd start with what the customer is. So the customer for that would be
True.
a developer of wind farms. So fundamentally, what is it that a developer is looking for? Where are they looking for this? And how and when does the discussion start, and with whom? And I would honestly start just mapping all the way that through. So you have discussions, they've given you the requirements, you're looking in to see if it fits. You run through the whole process in a narrative form first, forgetting about you and your internal organization things. Literally just focus on the client and the process and the commercial process that's out there. Obviously, it's different if you're still very early in R&D. But anyways, I would map that out, and then I would literally, just if you imagine that sort of like visually going across the top of a page, then in each sort of at each stage in each column below that, I'd have the three divisions I guess you have here, but there may be more of sales, field operations, R&D, and then there's kind of central office. And just in each stage, in very simple terms, don't get hung up on job families and stuff like that, but just write out who's doing what at each stage. And the power of doing that and just having it on one page is significant. I think simple wins as an overall, point, and having it on one page reduces and with things distinctly right next to each other, reduces, I think, the possibility of things getting lost or overlapping. So I just would do that, fill it out, sit with then all the people that are involved in it, and go through it and get to clarity or not. I use that as a way to, if it does throw up questions or concerns, you know, you want it done there in that phase. So I would keep it very simple, and I would keep it very narrative and customer focused.
You're on fire today, Carl. That is amazing. Thank you very much for that. That really helps because often founders, but also, let's be honest, also as people in the, let's call it the people sphere, tend to get a bit hung up on certain processes and titles and job families and this and that. But actually, it really comes down to the really sort of granular stuff, which is the customer. Really. That's all it comes down to. So thank you very much for that, Carl. Really appreciate it. We have 7 minutes to go. And I guess we've got a bunch of shy people that are tuning in, especially via our live streams on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram too, I believe. So this is our Startup Talent Q&A. We're here to help startups with whatever questions you have on building your team and doing it right, getting the right people for the right job. There are no wrong or right questions, and there's no need to be shy. If you do have any questions, please be aware that unfortunately we are unable to monitor your questions on these other platforms. Basically, you would have to join us live on Microsoft Teams. If by the way, you've got questions that are on other matters and not on talent, then please save them for the other rooms. We do Mondays, obviously, as you can see, it's talent, but then Tuesdays it's product and tech, Wednesdays is growth, Thursdays is fundraising, and second Friday of each month it's startup law, and third Friday of each month it's startup finances. They're all from 12 to 1 p.m. UK time, and you can RSVP to any of them via our site, startup to scaleup.club. And the last question for today, I guess, is as follows. So I'll put it in the chat if you would like to have a look at it, Carl. But this is from an edtech company. Where is it? As the founder of a seed-funded edtech startup in Cambridge, where we provide interactive STEM kits for students to encourage hands-on learning, we're having difficulty crafting an attractive benefits package. Many of our team members are recent graduates who value flexible work and professional development, but we're limited in both funds and resources. What low-cost yet meaningful benefits could we introduce that align with our educational mission and appeals to a younger workforce? Furthermore, how can we demonstrate the professional growth opportunities within our startup to reassure new hires of the value beyond their salary? Okay, that's an interesting one. Okay, so I guess two main parts here. Number one is how do we make ourselves look attractive, especially when you're a startup and based in Cambridge and you're competing with, the big fishes out there. So what do you pay? What do you offer? What carrot do you dangle? And the second part is, ensuring people that it's going to be beyond a salary. They're going to learn things and develop and so on. What are your thoughts on this, Carl?
Well, I mean, I think if it's thoughtfully and kind of genuinely or authentically done, you can do a lot on a small budget if it's thoughtful. I think some things, if you're limited in cash, giving people a day off a year, for instance, to either volunteer and or for a learning day is one thing. So playing with time and making that an explicit benefit, I think is something you could do. I definitely get it about learning L&D packages and being limited, but I think first of all, something is definitely better than nothing. And I think if you were to look around, or you were to say that you give people a budget of like £50 a year, it's something. And I think you'd be surprised how if you have the right people, they appreciate that, and they know money is tight. I think you could also do something, especially because you're an ed tech company yourself, with getting people to find and share L&D resources that are out there, that are or learning, just more general learning things, so that it doesn't become something that's atomized to each person, but you're sort of, people are sharing it, and again, you're making it a sort of collective enterprise. That's something that I think can work well, and kind of similar to what we said last time. I would look at, depending on who your investors are, if they're individuals or institutions, or just anyone that you are involved with, anyone that's a service provider, seeing if they have discounts or things that are available, or other benefits. So yeah, I think in the past, if you have the kind of the right place and the right people and the right mission that you're on, I mean, in the absence of like huge disparities, a thoughtful program can go a long way. So I wouldn't rule it out. That's it.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much for that. The only thing I would, or the stuff I would like to add here, that more detail, perhaps, that goes in line with Carl's thoughts, is try to, as hard as it is, try to be tailored in what you offer to the people that you already have and those that you um, to join you, in terms of offering certain benefits to somebody, um, may be relevant, but perhaps not to somebody else. So try and find a way to do that. There are quite a few companies and businesses out there that offer all sorts of benefits that can be bucketed and put into certain groups. That's one. Two, in terms of what you offer to people, like Carl mentioned, the day off to go and volunteer and so on. There are quite a few other things you can do there, to try and be creative. And last but not least, perhaps worth looking into the idea of really focusing on the equity side of things and try to emphasize on that, and the success of or the potential success of both the employees but also the company itself. So try and connect those two together. It is now 1 o'clock, so I guess it's time for us to call it a day. I really appreciate your help today, Carl. I know there was a bit of coughing going around, and also we weren't able to be joined by Jeff and some other panelists that were meant to join us today. Do you have any parting words for us before we let you go, Carl?
No, just I mean, obviously, as people are doing when they're reaching out here, I just would encourage them to keep reaching out for problems that have been solved and focusing on that, and then try to make things a bit easier for themselves going forward.
Here, thank you very much for that. A quick reminder to everybody: we run 6 regular sessions. Monday's talent, as you saw today. Tuesday's product and tech. Wednesday's growth, and Thursday's fundraising. And 2 monthly ones: a legal, so UK startup law on the second Friday of each month, and finances on the third Friday of each month. They're all from 12 to 1 p.m. UK time. You can RSVP to any of them via our site, StartUp to ScaleUp.club. Or the best thing to do is perhaps to join our WhatsApp group. You'll see a WhatsApp icon on our site, and there you'll get alerts to all future rooms. Just remember, the startup journey can be both exciting but also quite challenging. So try to have some fun in the meantime and be kind to yourself and everyone else. Otherwise, next time, try to join us live and interactively via Microsoft Teams rather than the other platforms, because we're unable to monitor your questions elsewhere. And hopefully we'll see you tomorrow for Startup Product and Tech. We've got a brilliant team of product and tech experts, I think at least 4. So RSVP and spread the word. Thanks again, and God bless you all. Bye-bye for now.